to like.
Okay. Oh, good God, there I am. I don't want to see me. That's horrible.
You can just scroll down to the chat.
Right.
Hello. Andrew is in the UK right now.
Yep.
You know what I found? You know what I just found out? Because I was looking up time zones and stuff. Why? Why is Portugal, Spain, and France in a different time zone?
They're just a little further east. Yeah. I mean, I think Portugal kind of went along with it because they're on the continent, and it would be a little weird if they were different.
Yeah. I'm looking at this map, right? And it's so funny because you got like the north, northwestern African countries that are exempt from the GMT time zone. Like,
Right.
and then you have Spain, which is directly under the UK, which is
Yeah.
an hour back.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yep.
Yeah. It's like permanent daylight savings time,
Oh, wow.
in a way.
Works out for them.
Uh, well, yeah, it stays light later.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. The weird ones is I can't remember which it is, but Iran or Iraq at least used to be half an hour different.
What?
Yeah.
So that must
Yeah, it's like
only
30 minutes different. And then also, there's one, I think there are three land borders between countries that drive on the left and drive on the right. So you literally have to drive, like they've got crisscrossing overpasses to get you on the other side of the road.
what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah. I seem to remember the three of them,
So
but I could be
you
making
really
it
can't
up.
drive into that country. You have to stay on a certain road, right?
Yeah, I mean, there'd only be certain roads crossing the border,
That's
I
wild.
suppose. But yeah, it's weird. People are weird, man. People are weird.
We got some people in Europe. A lot of my community is actually from Europe.
All right.
A couple of people from London, people from
Nice.
Germany, Denmark, um, all over. It's kind of cool. I got people in Africa. It's almost like a 50-50, which is
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, everybody, where you guys tuning in from? We got some
I'm trying to get it where I can just see the chat. You can't like hide the video and just see the chat, can you?
maybe I don't know. I'm not
Can
sure.
you pop the chat out into its own window?
You might be able to. I have a
Oh, because you're the dude.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm useless at this at the best of times. So all good. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make it skinny and I'm gonna hang it off the edge. Oh, that's better. And then I can put this here. And of course, I don't. My eyesight's terrible, so I'm gonna be leaning in quite a bit.
That's okay.
Nice little Bounce Factory shout out.
Yeah. And the closer you get,
Nice.
the more intimate it's gonna feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Uh,
look at how diverse the crowd is. We got Norway, London, Germany, Denmark, LA, Ukraine,
yeah, it's amazing.
Canada.
Ooh, pop out chat. There we go.
Oh, there you
I
go.
popped it out. So I have to accept.
Czech Republic, Nigeria, South Africa. Yeah, we got everybody in here, man.
Yeah. Well, now my chat like cleared out.
Oh, now it's gonna start over.
I guess so. I don't know what's going on here, man. Oh, I
Australia,
think we're. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we're good. I think we're good.
amazing.
All right. So now I can make this bigger again. I'll have this figured out by the time we finish.
No, you're all good, man. Just us being in here, like just chopping, chopping the shits. It's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
They were
I
they
can't
were
make the
commenting
font.
on your background. They're like, are the synths do they serve as a diffuser?
I suppose they do. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, considering they're off right now, that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome. Man, so great to have you here. Um,
Great to be here.
yeah, and this is the last thing I expected running into you at NAM. Hey, let's do a live stream together. I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, we talked about it before, and it just hadn't happened.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if
So
I have to
here we
be
are.
doing this more often because I do have like a big, you know, our engineer community is pretty close right now. I know it's a little bit different than like how it used to be in the old school, right? Everyone was kind of like competition. Uh,
Yeah,
but I love where it's at right now, and I love how we get to push the the, the engineering community forward, and it's less work that you have to do and more innovation that can be done, right?
yeah, yeah. Demystifying, I think, is a big part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like the whole reason I started this is like I wanted to be that guy to that I didn't have, the mentor or the one person that shows you something that isn't, rocket science, and then that that thing will have a trickle effect or a domino effect, and your career can just go from
Yeah.
there. And yeah, I have a couple questions here
All right.
if you want to get into that. I think it's fascinating. It's always fascinating asking like engineers or people in any walk of life. Like, what was your turning point in your career? Like, where did you start? Were you an assistant? Were you an intern first? And then where was the turning point where you thought like, oh, I'm a professional now, or you started to think
Uh, yeah. I mean, I went to University of Miami to study recording. They had a 4-year program, which was a music major and a minor in electrical engineering. Like it was a really difficult college course to do, but they had 2 studios. So I just spent my entire life in there. And
you're alumni of the U.
the U, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I was there. I think I overlapped with Warren Sapp, and I'm like 2 years after The Rock.
No
Yeah,
way.
and like 5 years after Jaco Pastorius, Willie had just gone through. Like it was heavy. I mean, there've always been great people coming out of that school, but it was a really like that was the time. I was just after, I think, sort of the peak.
Mhm.
But I thought that I would just go work in the studio, go be a runner and then work my way up to assistant and stuff. But I got offered a job, and it was doing service on synclaviers, which were really early workstations, basically. It was a synthesizer, a sampler, a sequencer, all in one box. And so I worked for that company for 3 or 4 years. And I was the guy fixing something that was really expensive. So only people who had made money had them.
Yeah.
And when I would go into a session and fix it, they wouldn't trust it. So I'd have to hang around and make sure that it was actually working. So I got to hang around on some ridiculous sessions,
Oh wow.
which was really cool. But then I realized after that time that I wasn't making records, and that's just what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So I quit to become freelance. But because I had this thing with the synclavier, I did a lot of programming. I did a lot of MIDI programming, put together MIDI studios for people. Um, really working hard and not doing a lot, but had some really great opportunities. And then again, through the Synclavier, I went on tour with, well, first I went on tour with Stevie Wonder because the guy who had been the keyboard tech
Oh, wow.
got a gig on a Michael Jackson tour. So he split. So I took over that, and it was amazing. It was this really short, like 3-month tour of Europe, but we had a live orchestra in every city that we would pick, like local players. So the morning of the show would be rehearsals and then the show, and then load out and go do another one. And that was super cool. And then that ended, and Michael was still in production rehearsals. Like they hadn't even gone on the road yet.
Mhm.
And they were taking synclaviers on the road. And so I got the gig to take care of the synclaviers. And so that was on and off 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, something like that. And again, like I was on the road and I was making okay money, but I had a very young kid at that point, and it just became obvious that I could easily just tour for the rest of my life, and that would be a bad decision for my family.
Right.
So again, I'm like, okay, I got to make records. And then I started doing freelance stuff again. And so a lot of kind of false starts, but that were productive because I would meet people and stuff like that. And then it kind of went from the programming back into doing more engineering. And I just started assisting, or I would be there to do the Synclavier stuff, but then they'd need someone to record overdubs. So I would just go down the hallway and record overdubs.
Wow.
And I got to work on a Michael Jackson record, and that was it. I was like, my term for myself was I was the audio janitor. I just did everything.
Mhm.
Everyone else was there for like a specific thing, and they're amazing people, and I got to learn from all of them. But I was the one who would just go do anything.
Wow. Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
stress that with these guys. It's like, you know, now more than ever, you can't be a one trick pony. You can't be the guy
no,
that just presses record because there's a million of you. You know, what do you?
yeah, and there's so few records that can afford someone who just engineers. It just doesn't happen anymore.
100%. So damn, like 6 years of your life was was a tech and a touring tech. And
Basically,
wow. Okay.
and then just work my way up. I got lucky. I met some people who were super cool to me. Like Carmen Rizzo was the first guy who really helped me out. And he would hire me on sessions where there wasn't really a whole lot for me to do. And he would let me come hang out on sessions where there was nothing for me to do. I spent a lot of time with him. A guy named John Barnes, who died a few years ago, amazing keyboard player, played on tons of stuff. And he had a synclavier, so I worked with him for a few years. And then just met people and did stuff for a couple of years. I made a lot of money not a lot of money. I made most of my money
Mhm.
tuning vocals.
Mhm.
I would show up at a session with my DA88s and I would transfer the vocals. I'd go home, I'd tune them, I'd put it back on D88, go to the studio, dump them back on tape. And then I was working on this one record. It was like the heyday of boy bands.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking, like, this music, I hate it so much. I can't be part of it coming out. Like, I can't do this. So once again, I kind of reset. And I must have done that 5 or 6 times at least. Just say, I'm not doing what I want to do, really. So I've got to stop doing stuff. And terrifying. Like you're paying your mortgage and you're eating, and then you say, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore because I want to pursue the thing that I want to pursue. So yeah, it's weird. It's just a really, really slow climb. I mean, I think the first thing though that was like, okay, like I have horrible imposter syndrome. I still think that I suck. Like seriously, I'm not just being humble. Like every record, I think I'm going to get fired, and but the first time when it was like, okay, I guess I'm okay with this was 99 Problems. I think that was the first one that was like, okay,
I did something.
you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing, it's out there. And then after that, years later, just slogging, the Chili Pepper Stadium Arcadium was another one like that. Like that was big. And there was, I think when you're an engineer, you question uh your contribution sometimes. It's like, well, they could have made that record with anybody. Some people get real like arrogant about it, but I was always like, well, who the fuck am I? Like, I just showed up and I hit record or whatever it is that I did, but anybody could have done that. And it's hard to like take credit for someone else's record. But
Yeah.
I think with the Chili Peppers, that record, I mean, obviously it's them, it's Rick Rubin and all that, but like the mixes I did on that, that's me.
Yeah.
There's no question.
And you got a
So
little shiny trophy for it.
I did get a nice little shiny trophy for that one.
First.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, that was the first.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy because like there's so many things that run parallel in my life. There's like the first couple big things I worked on that got like acclaim or awarded. I was like, I just hit record. I don't know if I did much on this. So I went through that too, like years of just like, was it me? You know?
Yeah.
Let me turn this. Okay. And then my validation was the Nas King's Disease, which is, he was 0 for 14 at the Grammys, And then the first one we work on with me, Hit Boy, and Nas, we end up winning a Grammy for it, and that was like my moment where I was like, okay, I touched every single record on this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
recorded everything, I mixed everything. So okay, let me give myself a little pat in the back because I'm very hard on myself too. I suffer from imposter syndrome to this day, and last year I decided to take a stab at producing, and like I spent a lot of time in Korea. I put out a producer album, but it was really scary, and now I'm at another crossroads where it's like, all right, I'm gonna pack everything up that I've been doing for the last 15 years, and then I'm going overseas, and I'm gonna pursue this brand new thing and start from ground zero. Well, not technically ground zero because I know people and things like
Yeah.
that, but still, to me, I feel like, oh man, now I have to look up again. Like there's this huge
Yeah.
mountain I have to climb, and like I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I think it's good, and everyone does it differently. But like for me,
Hmm.
I gain a little bit of confidence, but like I can't imagine ever being arrogant. Like how the hell would I do that? I don't even know how to do it, which is good because I've been in the room with some people who are arrogant, and some of them are arrogant and deserve to be. I get, and I mean, no one deserves to be arrogant, but it is, but someone who is obviously, they're amazing. They just happen to be arrogant about it. But I've been in a room probably way more with people where you're like, what? Where is this even coming from? And it's sort of born out of insecurity.
Oh, of course.
So it's good to, yeah, I think it's great to be inspired to go do stuff, and it gives you the confidence to think like, well, I'm going to do, and if it doesn't work out, like whatever, I'll do something else.
Yeah, there's something else I'm good at still.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. That's amazing, man. Um, Another thing I want to touch on is like, your credits are all over the place in the best way possible. I mean, you've done Adele, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Justin Timberlake, and Jay-Z, and Linkin Park, and like and heavy metal stuff. So like, do you have like um a common philosophy when approaching all of these genres? I know, of course, you have to, adjust techniques and things like that, but is there something that spreads across the whole board?
Yeah, yeah, there is. And a part of it is that I realized, I mean, it's a long time ago now, but like when you're younger, you listen to one type of music,
Mm.
and that's like all your friends listen to that, and that's your thing. It's a social thing that you only listen to that sort of stuff. And then as you get older and you're not like hanging out all day with the same people, you're working, you're doing all sorts of stuff, you start to listen a little bit wider.
Yeah.
And I just realized like I like the exact same emotions in just about any genre.
Mm.
Like I like dark, I like difficult, I like heavy, but that's in classical as much as it is in rock. Like it's there in hip hop, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
So, and in the same way, it's never occurred to me to mix for a genre. It's like the source material is the genre, right? It's the songwriting, it's what they tracked, it's the choice of instruments. So the best way I can describe it, and this isn't it, but this is what I've decided I say when people ask,
Uh-huh.
is when you go to a gig that's got a live drum kit, and before the band comes on, they're always doing a line check, and you get the drum tech, and he's on stage, and they're checking microphones, and usually the front of house mixer will unmute the PA just to hear a kick drum, and that sound, that gigantic sound that hits you in the chest,
Uh-huh.
that's what I want every single mix to do.
Love
Unless it's, a really quiet song, but like that's it. I want everything to feel like that. The chorus of 99 Problems has to hit as hard as the chorus of a Chili Peppers song
facts. Yeah.
and give you that same feeling. It's easy to say, and it just sounds like, I don't want to talk about techniques and blah blah blah, but it's all about how it feels
Hmm.
completely. And I can only respond the way I respond, and I respond to the same kind of stuff.
Mm. And it's like a similar feeling. I think I know what you're talking about. It's like when I'm mixing, I want the most emotional part of the song to give me goosebumps. If it doesn't, then I have to adjust. I have to do something.
Yeah. exactly.
Yeah, because mixing's just as much feel as techniques and technical. Because you can have the best mix possible, the cleanest, most spatial mix of all time, and if it doesn't make you feel anything, then what's the point?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I mean, there's this whole kind of part of the audiophile community, nothing to do with making records, with people who listen, where they've built themselves a stereo so good that they will only listen to stuff that sounds good.
Uh,
And like,
right.
that's so sad to me, man. There's so many records that sound awful that are amazing,
Yeah.
you know?
I feel that about like the last year how rage music, like rage rap music was really big, like the Ken Carson
Eh,
type. That energy, like I used to listen to mixes very from a mixer perspective, and I had to adjust that like a couple years ago. Just because there were clients that I would mix for, and I'm like, oh, this is the best mix I ever did. I send it back, and they're like, yo, the feeling's gone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Like, it needs to be
Anytime I think a mix is great, they hate it.
facts. Yeah. And so you have to kind of sacrifice a part of your soul and just compromise and adjust. And I think that's like one of the most important things about being a successful mix engineer is taking feedback and understanding it's not your song. You
Yeah.
understanding they trusted you to deliver a message, and
Yeah.
sometimes our ego intercepts that message and wants to convey it a certain way, but that's not our job. And I think
Yeah.
that is one of my biggest lessons. It's not about it. It's their song,
Yeah.
and how it translates
Yeah.
to the people.
Yeah. It's a really weird gig.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially like with social media and stuff. There's times where we'll revert back to the better feeling version of the mix, and then someone in the comments will be like, "Oh, who mixed this?" Or like, "Oh man, this mix could have been better." You're like, "I know."
Yeah. I mean, there's someone a couple weeks ago that was like someone hating on a record that I put out on my label, and it said like, "Hey Shep, stop making music." Like, all right. And that's there are all these really positive comments, and then there's that one, and of course that's the one I remember. It kept me up that night. Like, I don't know.
You know what's crazy? I try to respond to those, especially
Really?
with kindness, right? Like
Yeah.
if someone was like, "Oh, this mix could have been better," right? I'll reply and be like, "Hey, I'm working. I'm still getting better. What do you think I could have done better on this?" And then 9 out of 10 times their response is, "Oh my god, I'm such a big fan."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think you do that when they say stop making music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a step too far. Like, you can't
That's
respond to
kind of crazy. And for someone,
that. Well, it's totally legit for that person. I mean, that's fine. But to have to have offended that person that much, it's kind of impressive, actually.
hey,
You know?
music's subjective, right?
Yeah.
um, I know your your philosophy about mixing in the box. Do you still stand by that?
Yeah.
100%.
100%. When I go somewhere, I pick up the laptop that is my studio computer and a pair of headphones, and I walk out the door. Yeah.
Do you use remote software?
No, no. I mean, I just literally carry the computer around because it's an M3 MacBook Pro, and it's the fastest computer I've ever owned. And at home, it's running this huge setup with Dadman and Atmos and all that kind of stuff. But just yank all the Thunderbolt
Yeah.
and plug in a UAD twin, and I got my headphone amp and a couple of UAD chips,
Uh-huh.
and I'm done.
So you just
Yeah,
carry around the satellite and the twin and some headphones.
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Every time I travel, I just like I carry my Mac Studio. I put it
yeah,
in a roller, and then I have my twin and my satellite in there and my iLock, and we're good to go.
Yeah. I was in a Mac Studio, but then I got the M3 MacBook Pro, man. It is so much faster than a Mac
I
Studio.
actually got one coming next month, so
Good man.
super excited
It's
about that.
insane
Yeah.
how much faster it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, the studio sometimes it'd be throttling. And I don't know if it's a Pro Tools thing. I know they're always working on like their load management. Uh
Yeah,
but it's weird because like usually you would stream off a different computer and then feed the audio and video feed into that computer. But I just do it on the same computer. I'm like, I'm pretty much maxed out on here. But
yeah,
we'll still get a couple hiccups here and there. But the laptop thing is really dope. And I use sometimes like I'll leave my computer on at the studio a lot,
right,
and then I use remote PC. So like last year and
right.
before that I was golfing a lot, and I'll be out on the golf course and they'll be like, "Can you send me, stems for this or instrumental of this?" And I'll just pick up my phone and be like, "Hold on one sec." Pew 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 pew. And I'll get into
Yep,
here. And it's like I'm 100% in the box also. So
yeah,
you can't do that if you have a piece of gear where you have to turn something or recall.
yeah,
And like,
yeah.
when did you make that change? Has it?
Uh, it was the first Hozier record
Mhm.
was the first one I did completely in the box. So I don't know what year that was.
Was there a
It's a while ago
specific
now.
reason for it?
Well, there were a few. One was that with the hardware, I was sick of all the problems. I was sick of the noise. I was sick of the fact that my mix would lean to the right at certain frequencies because stuff can't be aligned,
Mhm.
headroom, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the process is awesome. Just reaching over, twisting knobs, that's all great. But there was a lot of technical stuff that kind of sucked.
Mhm.
And I was starting to travel more. I started doing the mix with the masters seminars and my wife's English, so we'd be coming over from LA and we would always go see her family. And so these trips were getting to be 5 or 6 weeks long, and I can't not work.
Yeah.
And I got a call during my first or second mix of the masters thing to mix something. And I thought, well, I just won't say that I'm not home. I'll do it on my laptop. And this is when the laptop sucked.
Mhm.
I mean, it was brutal. And I'll just send the mix. And if there's a real problem, I'll say, well, I'm not in my studio, so I guess have someone else do it. And I just got regular mix notes. And then it's when you realize like it's just what you hear.
Mhm.
So you have to learn the tools and it's a different process, but the tools are just as good. The whole like, analog is better. It's bullshit, man. But if you like mixing on analog and it makes you happy and it makes stuff sound the way you want it, then you should absolutely do it. I'm not saying digital is better than analog, but for me, it was really about workflow. And it was terrifying. You think like, oh man, the gear is why people hire me. And well, that would suck. Because then people could just book a studio and they'd be fine, wouldn't need me at all.
Right.
And I think that the last little hurdle was I had all these questions about like specific things. Like, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? And fortunately for me, I'm good friends with Chad Blake, who's like one of my heroes for mixing. And I was going to have lunch with him, and he'd been mixing in the box for 5 or 6 years already. He won a Grammy, like the first record he mixed completely in the box, won an engineering Grammy.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to ask him how to do this and that and the other thing. And halfway to his house, I realized, like, man, the only answer I need is that he's doing it.
Mhm.
So it's possible. So just get over yourself and do it. And I have absolutely not looked back. I love it. I love how easy it is. I mix an entire record at a time instead of hoping I get mix notes in time to stay on one song a day because I got to take it off the console. And man, I don't miss that part of it at
Right.
all. I miss my gear for tracking.
Ah.
You know,
Mm.
I love tracking through a bunch of gear. But yeah, I mean, the mixing, I'm sure if people knew which records I did and which records I didn't, then they would go listen and say, oh man, no, it's so much better when he was on the gear. And
But
But if I
You
didn't
have
tell
to
you
pick which ones were all digital that
exactly,
say.
exactly. It's and some records end up sounding great and some records don't. And that's whether you're on analog or digital. And it's, you know, it's the day, it's the songs. A bad song will always sound bad.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, there's a lot of stuff too, but I don't miss mixing on analog gear at all. I love not being tied down and being able to work on 5 records at once if I need to.
Right, right. Jumping. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, I mean, I can take a break from the record I'm right in the middle of, and this happened yesterday,
Mhm.
to print mixes on a totally different project. And
Yeah.
that's a break. You know, set up Bounce Factory, then I go have dinner, come back upstairs, and now I'm fresh back on the record that I was getting
Of course, on
sick of.
Bounce Factory, you gotta be on.
100%,
Mm,
man.
I put everybody on to Balance Factory. They were just like, "Yo, this is gonna save so much time." And um, last week I had Simone from Forte. Forte is a pretty cool program because it sets up your session for you.
Right, right. That's the one where if you've got stems, it analyzes them and then builds
Yeah,
a
yeah.
session. Yeah.
So like the combination of Forte and Bounce Factory, it's like, yo,
All you got to do is mix.
all you gotta do is mix. And I mean I wish I had this my whole career because I just recently had a an assistant, and for the majority of my career I did everything myself just because I'm such a control freak and I don't know how to accept help. Which is I'm learning because eventually you do need to learn how to do that, how to
I
trust
should learn that.
people. And I mean, scalability is directly tied to it, because
Yeah.
there's so many things that I enjoy doing that aren't mixing. And
Golf, apparently.
golf, I like spending time with my wife, like I like traveling. So like the more time I can save, like I'm sign me up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um is there any piece of gear that you miss? I know.
For mixing, no,
Yeah.
definitely not. No.
Are you a big
I
UAD
miss
guy?
I miss all my gear that I sold that I used to track on,
Oh,
but
but for mixing,
that just no,
yeah.
not at all.
You a big UAD guy?
Um, I mean, I certainly use the stuff,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it again. I just mentioned Bounce Factory. Now I'm going to mention the plugin I did with Waves. Like 90% of the time, I'm putting omni-channel in because I built it, so it does what I need it to do. And then the other 10% of the time, there'll be like something specific that, like, okay, I know this thing will do that, that thing will do that. But the other thing is, I get stuff to mix. I'm sure you're the same. That like the sessions are so complicated that I think there are like 3,700 plugins in my plugins folder because every time I get a record to mix, there'll be some plugin I've never even heard of.
Mhm.
And like, okay, I'm going to get this thing, I'll get the trial, have a listen. And if it's really integral to the sound, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
So every record, I'm buying at least 2 or 3 plugins,
Damn.
and you just got to have them. But while I'm working on a mix, my template's got all kinds of stuff. While I'm working on a mix, it's omni-channel almost all the time.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. I was gonna say, do you use your own plugins?
Absolutely. The Shep 73, absolutely. Omni-channel all day, every day. Like seriously, it's well over 90% of the time, I would say. The parallel particles was built more for other people because it did some of the stuff that I've got in my template that's really complicated to set up, and I wanted to make that available.
Mhm.
Just super easy to use interface. So every once in a while, I'll do it because, like, oh, let's just see if this, like, if when I'm really stuck on something, that was the whole idea of it. Just bring it up. You got 4 knobs. It either sounds better or it lets you know I think I need to do this to it
Yeah.
because it does so much. They're like, okay, well, none of that works. I'm going to do this instead. But yeah, Shep 73 until I did Omnichannel and now Omnichannel constantly.
Mm. Chef
Because why wouldn't you build?
pretty much built into Omnichannel, right?
Yeah, it's not like that EQ isn't all the bands of a 1073, but yeah, there are a couple of bands that we started with and then modified into the EQ on the Omni channel.
Dope.
But like, if you could build a plugin, why wouldn't you build exactly what you want?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
yeah,
100%. Like if you're not gonna use it, why endorse it? Why put your name on it?
yeah,
I want to ask Manny the same thing. I'm like, Manny, do you use all of your plugins? Yeah,
yeah. Who knows? I'm sure he does. I mean, at least he did. I'm sure, but obviously stuff changes, and
of course.
your tastes change. But that's why, like omnichannel, I'll never stop, because it's like it's all the compressors I like, it's all the EQs I like. It, yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
Parallel particles is dope, and I love the GUI on that because like super cyberpunk, very user friendly, easy on the eyes, and it just looks cool. Looks like a
There's
transformer.
so many people who hate it.
Really?
Yeah, because they want more meters and more controls. And like that was the whole point of it, is you have no idea.
Yeah.
Just turn the knobs and hopefully it's going to make your life better. But
That's what I love about it, cause like you don't know exactly what it's doing, but does it sound good? If it does, keep it. If it doesn't, then take it off, right?
yeah, yeah, and you haven't wasted like an hour learning how to use it.
Exactly. Cause sometimes like some of these like plugin alliance drops so many plugins, right? And we'll review them. Someone in the chat will be like, "Hey, have you tried this?" And all the stuff with the mid side and saturators. Now like the Mag 4 mid side, I opened it and it's like, boom. And I'm like, hold on, let me digest this for a second because
Really? All right, I got to start using that.
yeah, it used to be like five. It used to the Mag 4 EQs 5 knobs,
Yeah.
Now it's like 20 plus, and you
Wow.
have they're EQing, they have soft clipping, they have saturation, they have mono stereo mode, they have widening on there now. It's cool though. It took me a
Yeah.
but I'm like, oh, this is nice, and now I have a little bit more control, and it it, it kind of replaces like 2 3 plugins where Mag 4 I primarily use it just for the airband, but now
Well, that's what everybody used the Maggie Qs for. People would have them in the rack and only the airband got
the
used.
yellow knob. But
Yeah.
now I have a purpose. Like I can put that on and maybe not use 2 or 3 other plugins for widening and things like that.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna pull it up in the session I got open so I don't forget to check it out.
Cool. But when you open it, it's like whoa.
And of course, I'm just assuming I own it.
You might have to get the you might have to download it off the thing.
The Magnum K? What's it called?
One. It's called here. Hold on. I have
EQ4 MS.
yeah Mag EQ4 MS. Here, let me share you my screen.
All right.
Pres-
Holy shit, that's a lot of knobs.
oh, you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but no, show it, because then you can tell me what you like.
Entire screen. Here we go. All right.
I got to move the chat now, man. All right.
So
Yeah,
when
that's a lot going on.
it's at 100% scale, and I'm like, yo, I can't see anything on here, so I had to turn it up to like full
Yeah.
screen.
No, that's better.
Yeah. So it has, of course, it has the airband here. It has a couple more. I mean, you can lock in more frequencies. So
Right, right,
you have the red and then white, which switches from top to bottom, and then you can switch these two. So you have 4 parameters, 4
right,
frequencies that you can choose from. Then you have left, right, and then if you go to MS, then you have mid side.
right,
You have this thing, the TMT, that turns it. This is kind of like not mono, but not any additional widening, and then the stereo mode 1 2 has like a little bit of widening effect. And then
right,
the mono maker, and then the stereo width, uh, harmonic distortion,
right.
yeah, and then a soft clipper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. Because I use the BX Digital 3 or whatever it is to do a lot of that kind of stuff. And, really subtle, because I love its stereo width control.
yeah, me too.
But what this doesn't have is the bass shift.
Mm.
Do you have the BX Digital? Pull that guy up, and I'll just show you that one thing. Yeah, the V3, not mix, the regular one. Yeah, you got to get the M3 laptop, man. Uh,
Coming.
so check out the bass shift. Just turn the knob down there. It's right above the EQ graph, all the way on the left. Yeah,
Oh.
check that out, and turn it up. And what it does is it keeps the RMS level of your mix exactly the same,
Uh-huh.
but it frequency shifts by sucking out around 400, which is usually stuff you don't want, and boosting it around 60. And then the little A next to the knob, there are 3 variations on it, I think, that are just different. But a little bit of that on a mix that's like, man, this is really good, but it's like a little bit thick. A little bit of that is awesome.
So this is like a good way to round out your mix a little bit.
It really is like shifting it. It sort of shifts the focus of the low end down.
Interesting. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm definitely adopting that because there's
it's
a lot of
pretty
times
cool.
where I would manually do that,
Yeah,
but if I have one knob to do it, say
exactly. And that way you just sort of check it out and like, meh, whatever, and you blow it off. Or it's like, okay, fine, that's exactly what I wanted.
that's awesome. Oh, cool. Thank you for that. I'm sure
Well, thanks for
be
the Mod 4. I'm definitely going to use that too.
yeah. Um. Uh. Next question I wanted to ask is about parallel processing, and I know we briefly touched on it right before the stream, and um, you're heavier on parallel processing before, and now where are you at?
Yeah, I'm using a lot less. Basically, is a carryover from the console, this whole rear bus thing, but whatever. They're parallel drum processes, parallel for the track minus the drums and things like that built into my template. And vocals, there are a couple just for vocals. And it used to be that they were just like on, and I dialed in stuff like with any template, you sort of dial in levels and then it starts to kind of be a good starting point for everything you do. And then I thought, well, I'm parallel processing is great for the presence and the way to kind of mix stuff without making it all sound super compressed, because the uncompressed signal is still there. So you get the transients and you keep the kind of intimacy in a vocal or all that kind of stuff. But it also really builds up. Like there are artifacts to it that it's more than artifacts. Like it just feels like something. It makes stuff feel thick. It's a little less see-through. And so I thought, well, I'm going to just do a really easy thing. I'm just going to put VCAs in my session where they're really easy to get to on the returns of all of these things. So I did that, and I would be turning them down a little bit. And I thought, okay, now I'm going to go back to my template, and I'm going to have all of them, all those VCAs start all the way down. So when I start a mix, I have none of my parallel stuff on there. So literally the only thing you would hear that's in my template would be, I start with that VX digital, but not with a bass shift, just a tiny bit of widening and a tiny bit of top end, and like Pultec EQ, just adding a little low and a high, and then a limiter at the end to keep the red lights off. No gain, nothing. That's all that would happen when I'd routed everything through my template, and then I could bring in the parallel stuff. And I was finding in a lot of mixes, I'd kind of forget to bring it up.
And then they come out.
And the mix would be done. And okay, so like there's a record I'm working on now where I've actually gone back and I've started using more of it because it's a rock record and the guitars need that thing that you get. And so I'm willing to trade off the thickness and all that. But yeah, I use a lot less of it now. But what's cool then is when I do use it, it's super specific and I'm really getting the thing I want instead of starting off with it and trying to think like, wait a minute, do I have too much of this? Like, it doesn't occur to you to do that.
Yeah.
So you like sometimes it would never make you think like, oh, I should just turn down the parallel stuff. Whereas now it has to be a conscious decision to bring it in.
That I found that was my issue is like I had it defaulted, and then there were certain things that I would forget the parallel compressions on, and I would be EQing things to shit, and I'm like, "What's going on? I can't get it out." And then I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then one day I just turned all of it off, and I'm like, okay, everything feels spacier, right?
Yeah,
Too much parallel compression is just gonna eat up all that headroom, and it makes your mix really thick. But sometimes you want a little bit more clarity,
yeah,
and so I like nowadays I use parallel processing for like widening and phasers and things like that. But I rarely find myself using parallel compression, and it helps that like most of the plugins these days have a mix knob,
yeah,
which is doing that for us, right?
yeah. Definitely. I mean, I still use it pretty regularly on a drum kit
Mm,
because there's just stuff you can do so quickly with it that's difficult otherwise. I mean, I've got nothing against it. If it works, I'm going to use it. I don't care what it is.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm finding myself not using it that much anymore.
yeah.
And it'll change, talk to me again in a year.
I think a lot of it changed with like with clippers sounding so good too. Because now it's when I'm trying to get thickness out of a drums or a kick, like we have things like um, Shep's parallel particles. We have um, like my favorite is gold clip, orange clip, where
Right.
I get RMS without sacrificing peaks. And so those are the things I was trying to achieve with parallel compression anyway. And now you have saturation clipping, and those plugins are so good that it's kind of
Yeah.
yeah replacing it for me. Um, what do you think about where do you think AI is gonna take mixing music in general? Let's just say.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the let's not talk about writing, like music generation itself, because that's a totally different topic to like the use of AI in the audio tools.
Mhm.
And I think the AI in the audio tools is absolutely amazing. Like today, mixing a song, and it was a recall because they wanted it to feel more live, like, more aggressive. So a lot of that was going to be the drums. I had to really start pumping up the drums, and the cymbals were just getting crazy, like absolutely crazy. And a lot of it was bleeding into the snare mic,
Uh,
like crash cymbals in the snare mic. And like, well, either I can't have the snare the way I want it to be, or I'm going to have way too much of the cymbals. And you can't write it down because there's a snare hit in the middle of the cymbal decay. And
yeah.
and so I threw it into Spectral layers, which can unmix drums,
Mhm.
but it's not even a stereo drum kit. It's just a mono mic
Like,
on a snare drum, but it unmixed it. And I got the kick bleed, I got the snare, I got the hi-hat, I got the cymbals on 4 tracks. And when you play all 4 of them at 0, it's bit for bit exactly what you put in,
oh,
but I just turned down the cymbals. And it was like magic.
wow.
And you would spend hours mixing
Mm.
to try and make stuff like that happen. So I use those kinds of tools all the time,
Mm.
all the time. And they just make my life so easy that I think that stuff's great. The music generation thing, I've got thoughts, but it keeps changing as I learn more about it. So I don't know that I've got a coherent
Hmm.
opinion, really.
Where are you at now with it?
Well, where I'm at now is there are 2 things that I'll say that I believe are true. So one of them is that people talk about how it is listening to copyrighted material,
Hmm.
right? It's trained on copyrighted material and then spitting out its own stuff. But I don't think you can separate it from the process that every single musician goes through in their entire life, or artist, anyone who does anything.
Hmm.
A writer has read hundreds of copyrighted books.
Hmm.
You have listened to thousands and thousands of copyrighted songs.
Yep.
Every single one has had an influence on what you do, to the point where I would imagine when you're writing, you realize after 3 hours, like, oh shit, I just wrote this song that I already know. The chord progression's exactly the same. You get the same kind of melody. Like it just happens because you are influenced by it.
Mhm.
And as long as these AI models don't spit out something that sounds exactly like something they're trained on, it's doing the same thing. Now, it's not a person, and so you can get mad at that. And maybe there should be some kind of legislation that says it's okay for people, but it's not okay for a machine.
Mm.
Like, okay, But until you do that, the process is actually the same. It's just it can listen to a lot more stuff than you can.
Right, right, right.
And if it spits something out that sounds like part of its training set, it's actually broken. Like I've talked to a lot of very smart people who work on this stuff. So that's the one thing I believe. Then another thing was that there was a talk about like music interfaces, not audio interfaces, but like ways MIDI controllers.
Mm-hmm.
And so this person designs MIDI controllers for a living, and they've done some cool installations in museums, which were like, you know, nothing like what we use in a studio. But they were talking about how they had given, I don't know if it was it wasn't ChatGPT because it was spitting out pictures, but you know, one of these big engines, lots of information about current MIDI controllers.
Uh-huh.
And look, 90% of them, more than 90%, are keyboards or pads, right? A grid of square pads or a keyboard. And so this thing would spit out pictures of that, but made out of stone. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still exactly the same thing. But then at the end of the talk, someone said, well, okay, so if you were going to design something for the studio, like, what do you got? Like, what are you thinking that's going to be revolutionary, at least just interesting in a totally different way? And they had nothing.
The AI.
And I'm thinking, well, okay,
Uh-huh.
so the AI is not putting creative people out of business.
Yeah,
It isn't.
create
It
something
just,
new.
no. I mean, and the music it'll generate will be different, but not brand new.
Mm-hmm.
It just won't be. It's going to conform to what it's been told. Now, it can, the same way ChatGPT can hallucinate, which is amazing. Just read about that if you haven't. It's crazy. There are like holes in the knowledge.
Uh-huh.
It's okay. So
That it's
really, really
filled in.
briefly, when you've got a large learning model
Mm-hmm.
and you start feeding it data, what it makes is this weird, like multidimensional graph of stuff.
Yeah.
Like there was one that was trained to be able to identify whether a picture was of a cat or of a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so you feed it 10,000 pictures of cats and you say, these are all cats. You feed it 10,000 pictures of dogs. These are all dogs. And then it can figure it out. But it's not because now it knows what dogs look like.
Right.
Like it's about the different ways pixels change on the edge of the animal. Like it's that kind of stuff. So it doesn't know what the hell a cat or a dog is, but it can recognize a picture of them based on some stuff that we don't even understand what's different.
Uh-huh.
So when you feed this stuff in, it's got this crazy multidimensional graph and it puts points basically. I mean, this is way oversimplified, but it puts points on the graph for every bit of input it's got. And then that way it can correlate stuff because you get clusters of things.
Oh, right.
And like, okay, these are the common things for this type of input.
Mhm.
Cool. But there are always going to be gaps when you go from here to here on the graph, and it just makes shit up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because what can it do? It's never seen anything between there and there. So it assumes what's there. And most of the time, sure, you're moving from here to here in a specific direction. It's all good. But every once in a while, it just goes to crazy town because it can't check itself.
Yeah. Right.
So, but that's as close to being creative as it will ever get, is there will be some weird error and it could be something you actually want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but truly creative people are making something out of nothing. And they always talk about it like they're channeling stuff or whatever. Like it's not something they sit down and think, I'm going to do something new, because you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's my very long thing to basically say I really don't know.
I mean, that's awesome. That's all I wanted to hear. Is I wanted to hear what your thoughts were, and AI. That's like the topic of every conversation these days, and nobody's
Yeah,
right or wrong. Like we can't predict the future. I mean, we could. There's probability, but no one really knows.
yeah.
Uh,
And with the copyright stuff, I mean, it's going to be like all the tech stuff, all social media and all that, where the tech moves so fast
yeah.
that you won't write laws about it. It's just going to be litigated. People are going to take people to court, and then there will be a decision, and that becomes the basis for more decisions. So all of the legal stuff is just going to get litigated. It's not going to be a bunch of people sitting in a room and saying, hey, what's right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have time for that.
Right. Because the next month is going to change. There's going to be something else to talk about. And
Yeah, so it's just gonna be people suing each other.
yeah, dang, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I hope I love AI for what it offers. Like me as a mix engineer, as a producer, um,
100%.
like even little things like even stuff like SoundFlow, all the stuff that I can do on there, all the macros, Bounce Factory, like, bro, I would love help. I would love help.
Yeah,
And if it's coming
yeah.
from a machine and if it's coming from a credible source, then it's trustworthy, you know? And you don't have to go through the I guess this is me backtracking from learning to trust people. Because now we're just talking about trusting a machine to do it.
Well, but you trust that the people who set up the machines know what they're doing,
Good point. Good point.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, would I trust Bounce Factory? I'd have to check it out. I got to make sure it's actually doing what I would do if I was sitting in front of the computer. And I know it does what I would do because I wrote the damn thing.
Yeah.
So I'm good. But everybody else on the planet should. That's why there's a 30-day demo. You check it out and make sure
It's
it's doing what you want it to do. Because if you just let something do what you think it's doing, but it isn't, then that's on you.
mhm,
You know,
for sure. Yeah. You have
it's
the
yeah,
it's like dealing with people. You have the choice to be there or not. You have the choice
yeah.
to keep them around or not. It's the same thing. And then there's man, the thing that scares me, but in a good way, is like when I'm on social media, every day there's some new not just pertaining to music, but as far as AI goes, um, plugins for ChatGPT, ways that ChatGPT can integrate to spreadsheets, things like that, where it's just like
Yeah.
every single day there's something new. And in video engines,
But
it's
but you know what is awesome? So uh I've got a tiny little label. I was putting out a record and I wanted to organize some like release day listening events. So I needed to set up web forms for people to say they were interested. I had to learn a ticketing platform. I had to integrate those things so they would, when anyone bought tickets or said they wanted to go to a show, it would put them into MailChimp and different mailing lists. Like, and I don't know anything about these platforms. I know they exist. I used them years ago for some stuff like, and it's a lot of web integration and getting all these services to talk to each other. I spent 2 days with ChatGPT and it was like a machine.
really,
Never could have done it myself,
man.
but it was amazing. And I managed to flawlessly put on 2 Atmos listening events for a record, do all the ticketing myself, all the contact myself, everything. And it was because, like, you want to do it
Hmm.
because you want it done right.
Yeah,
But there's no way it would have taken me 6 months to learn to do this stuff from scratch.
man. T- I've been using ChatGPT for like web design and things
Yeah,
like that, and it helps me so much because like I don't write Java. I'm not a coder. My brother does, but it might take a day for him to figure it out and then send it back to me. I go to ChatGPT, get something someone's done on GitHub, post it into ChatGPT, but I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this parallax, blah blah blah. Spit it out. Hey, it didn't work. Can you try it in a different way?
exactly. Here's what didn't happen. You have a conversation with it.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
It's scary and it's awesome,
Yeah,
but it's also going to ruin the world. So, it's a
eventually.
problem.
But I think by then we'll be gone.
We'll all be dead
Yeah, yeah.
from all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
I like to have this conversation about like the natural, evolution of the human being. The human race is gonna end up being a cyborg or machinery because evolution takes all the negative things or the things that are flaws and gets rid of them. And eventually, I have this theory that we're just gonna be machines, and that's okay with me because the monkeys never thought that one day humans are gonna take over. No, it's just what we become. But
Yeah. And mix records. Like,
um, how do you think the role of a mix engineer has changed over like the last? 20 years?
The last 20, I don't know that it's changed a huge amount. You're still coming in at the end of a project
Hmm.
to finish it. I think, 30 years ago, you'd finish the mix like, oh, we're done tracking, here's the mix, done. And then that turned into a thing. I mean, famously, Bob Clearmountain invented being a mixer.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like what's changed is production and recording,
Hmm.
and that has made mixers change. Like you used to get stuff that was recorded with intent, and it was obvious what direction people were going.
Yeah.
And like now, people's sessions are so complicated from day one. And then sometimes when they send them to get mixed, they want to strip everything out. Like, no, man, just do your thing. Like, no,
I hate.
you can't do it. The three worst words in mixing are do your thing. Because that means do exactly what I did, but do it
It's
yourself.
a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah.
Do your thing has never ever translated to, wow, this is great.
Yeah, this is like nothing I ever expected, and I love it. Like that's not a thing. So I think like the process has changed. What you get as source material has changed a lot.
Hmm.
But um yeah, I feel like what we do hasn't, I mean, all the tools we use, like everything day to day about it has changed. But the gig itself is still this crazy thing of taking someone else's art that they can't finish themselves and helping them finish it
Right.
when you can't live inside their head and they're trying to tell you to make things purple. Like
And
it's
and it,
insane.
the crazy thing is like their hue of purple, it's different from your hue of purple. Like when two people like let's say we had the ability to like this is purple, all right? If we had a huge color wheel, me and you, we're gonna pick a completely different hue of purple. So it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's why I guess the the collaborative, part about mixing for people repeatedly and getting to know them as people, like that helps a lot, because
Mhm.
then, hey, I want, this sounds boomy, then you know exactly what they mean. Of course, there's
Yeah.
like there's charts that tell us like, oh, this is boomy from 200 to 400, but
But
someone
that's
might.
not what everybody uses the word
Exactly.
boomy to mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I was working on a record and the singer on the first mix is like, blah, 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 blah. And can you make the vocal brighter?
hmm.
Like, okay, and every single revision was, and can you make the vocal brighter? I'm like, fucking man, this is tearing my head off. And finally I said, like, look, can you send me some examples of songs
Hmm.
that have the vocal sound that's kind of like what you want? And he sent something and there was no top end on it and there was tons of reverb. And
Oh.
like, okay, so this person was in a studio at one point
Hmm.
and there was a vocal with some reverb on it that he loved. And someone said, oh man, this is nice. The vocal's nice and bright. And so that's what that word meant to
Right.
them.
Yeah.
And you can't get to the bottom of it.
Uh-huh.
It's just impossible. So yeah, it's such a weird gig. And listening through other people's ears is just weird.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. Cuz it's so different based on like your geographical location, your culture, everything. Like
Yeah.
I've noticed that like, um if we're staying in the states, things from Texas, Houston, let's say, they all got subwoofers in their cars. You know, in New York, people are listening to music primarily on headphones. LA is we're
Yeah.
listening to it in cars, but without the 212s in our trunk, like, and trying to make stuff sound good, and that's why I always try to have a conversation with the people that I mix for, like, hey, where are you from? Like, oh, what do you like listening to? Who are your favorite artists? Because then I can like have a point of reference and be like, okay, he probably like, sounding like Nas because he grew up listening to
Right.
Nas, you know.
But again, that's why I'm much more interested in how the mix feels because
Mm-hmm.
that'll help it translate. If it
Facts.
feels good,
Yeah.
unless it only feels good because you got a crazy 808 bass going on, well,
Yeah.
all right, if you can't hear that, it's not going to feel good. But generally, that will translate.
Yeah. Well, what if you have like Augsburgers? Everything feels good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that or it makes everything that doesn't feel good really obvious that it
Oh,
doesn't feel good.
that's 100% true. True. True.
Right?
Let's see. Have you changed like your approach to mixing? Now that people are listening through their phones and through their laptops and their iPads and stuff.
No, no. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a time in the 90s where everyone's like, oh man, you got to mix for MP3. And that's when MP3 sounded terrible,
Mm-hmm.
like really bad. Like 128K was that was the best you could
Oh
get.
wow.
And it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
making a master. It's like with Atmos, the
Mm-hmm.
speaker mix is the master. Now it has to work, it has to translate. But no, I won't mix for something like that because that's not future proof.
It's
That's
not.
good for a year.
Yeah.
You know, you want people to come back and listen to stuff 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Like 99 Problems still feels pretty good.
Feels amazing.
And that's got to be, is that 20 years old? It's got to be
So
by
it
now.
has to be over. Wait. That
Look
is
it
it.
up.
20 years old? Hold on. Let me look this up real quick.
Maybe not. No, I bet you it is. I bet you it's 20 years.
Oh, yeah, 21. Almost 21. April 27, 2004.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. That's that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow. Man.
yeah.
Um I guess I got one more question, and then we'll kind of open up to these guys.
All
Um,
right.
and I ask everyone this, but if you can give your younger self some advice, right? You can choose what age, that's completely open, but what would that advice be?
Uh, Well, one of the things is to try and figure out where my imposter syndrome really kicked in and try
Mm-hmm.
and avoid that because it's not fun at
Mm-hmm.
all. But seriously, it would be, well, that was serious, but uh, practically would be to pay attention in my music business classes in college.
Ah.
Because all I wanted to do was get in the studio. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I still don't understand publishing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. Like, and I'm too old to get it now, or something like that. And I've got a label and I produce stuff, and like, so I need to know it. And so music business, and also I should have taken more time to learn to play. Like I was a brass player and I was
Mm-hmm.
okay,
What did
but
you
I
play?
never started on French horn and then played trumpet.
Oh, I was a tromboner.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
But I never learned to play an instrument where you play more than one note at a time. And I
Mm.
think really learning to play piano or guitar would have been a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think when I go to Korea, that's something that I'm gonna dive into because the thing about Koreans is they're amazing players, right? And I mean, creativity, innovation is another story, but just play because every Korean growing up, we either played the piano or the violin,
Right,
and that's
right.
100% facts, and so you got these amazing players. A lot of these first chairs of these big orchestra um, concerts and stuff. They're Korean, like a Korean woman, right?
Yeah,
It's insane.
yeah,
Um, so I'm definitely gonna look into getting lessons. I used to play violin as a kid. I might take my violin to
right.
Korea. That'd be cool. That'd be
Do
cool to
it.
pick it back up. But piano for sure. I feel like piano it's you gotta know how to play it. Like knowing theory is one thing, but there's nothing worse than like now I'm in the producer mind where like go into a session and someone's just ripping, playing every chord that they want to play, and
Yeah,
and you're over here like, damn. Like that
yeah.
would take me so
I'm
many.
that guy. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I just go, damn,
Hmm. Well, hey,
and
we
say
we
I
ha-
better be here for something else.
we could always make time to learn that though, right?
Yeah, It's something I've tried a few times. And
Mhm.
in college, I had to take piano classes, and
Mhm.
I'm just not good at it. There's something like I can't touch type. I have to watch my hands. I can never,
Oh.
ever, ever trust them to do
Uh-huh.
anything.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big impediment to
Mhm.
playing piano.
So your hand-eye coordination?
Yeah, I just don't trust them.
Mm,
They're my hands, but I don't
yeah.
trust them.
That was the biggest thing to going from, like, a Droid to, an iPhone, and I still hate iPhone for that, is when I'm on the Droid, I have the physical keyboard that I can touch, the BlackBerry too, and I'm just
Yeah,
you know? But now, like, I have these big old thumbs, and I'm hitting 3 keys at 3 letters
yeah,
at once, and I still really haven't adjusted to that. So I've been, like, talk to texting, like,
yeah. Well, then
autocomplete.
that worked.
Yeah. All right, let's open it up to questions. I think, uh, chat was going at it while we were talking. I didn't want it, you know, uh, I didn't
All right, I'm
want
gonna let
to
you scroll through it.
interfere. But let's see if there's oh, this is a good one. This is something that I wondered too. You know, you you mix vocals very well, very smooth, and I had the same question. How do you deal with, heavily compressed high-end harsh vocals? Well, my question was, how do you deal with harsh vocals? How do you approach de-essing?
Well, de-essing is easy. I mean, if it's already crushed, you've
Mhm.
kind of lost out on one of the things that I like to do, which is there'll be a de-esser that's the very first thing in the chain and a de-esser that's the very last thing.
Mhm.
Because you can catch the really loud S's when it's not compressed
Mhm.
and sort of get it close. But then any compression you put in EQ and whatever, you're
It's
starting to
gonna
bring
bring
the
it up.
S's back up. So then you de-ess again at the end. I use what's called the de-esser on the Omni channel constantly
Mhm.
because it's full frequency.
Mm.
So I just sweep around. If you hold down control when you use the frequency knob on
Uh-huh.
there, it turns it into a bandpass filter, and you just go
Oh.
until it's tearing your face off and then start sucking that out. So that adding low end will help. I mean,
Of
obviously you don't want
course.
to make it boomy, but one way to counterbalance something that's harsh, like if you're recording electric guitars,
Mhm.
just crank up a single electric guitar in the speakers and now start taking out low end, and it will get to the point where it really, really hurts.
Mhm.
You add the low end back in and it's fine. Like you don't have to do anything about that mid range
Mhm.
if it's got some body to go with it.
Ah.
So I think those are the two places I would start.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I've noticed that sometimes, like, there's mixes where I want the 808 to go just crazy, so I'll just, high pass everything. And then now I have harshness on all the stuff that I high passed. And I rarely think about the balance, which is the essential, the
Yeah.
fundamentals. But that's really good advice. Let's see. Um, oh yeah. One of our community members, he shared a tip, and it's like the easiest thing in the world, but it uses the parallel particles, and you just throw it on a kick that's already compressed, like basically at the end of the chain. You throw it on the kick and don't touch it, and you get that 5%. It's crazy. It actually is crazy. When I have a kick that, like, it's loud but it's not popping, I just throw parallel particles on it and I don't touch anything on it, and
Wow.
it gives me like that little
That's
lift.
funny. That's
Yeah.
really funny because I mean, I think we tried to make it so when all the knobs were down, it was a true bypass. But yeah, there's stuff that would leak in.
Hmm.
And the thing is that all four of those chains kind of cross patch themselves. And so each one affects every other one.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get a little bit of something. And
S-
probably most of it's just distortion,
Yeah.
which is what you want.
Yeah. And it's so subtle, but it's like the last bit that you need. It's like equivalent of like raising something point 0.3 dB,
Right.
but without the level. It's amazing. Um,
Nice.
would he change going to the U if he were to come up in today's time? Did you grow up in Miami?
No, no, no. I
No.
grew up on Long Island.
Oh, I see.
But at that point, there were really only two schools in the country that had 4-year programs in recording. And that this is
Um,
back mid 80s where, a college degree really you kind of had
matter.
to do it.
Hmm.
And my parents were adamant. So it was that or Berkeley and Boston. And my brother was in Boston and it's like, well, I want to go somewhere else. And also Miami, the head of the department there was Ken Pullman, who's one of the first people to really study digital audio, and he wrote a textbook about it. And he was just super cool. He had articles in Mix magazine all the time, and I thought,
Oh,
well, I'm going to go hang out with that dude.
yeah.
So
Great decision.
it was great. I am a huge proponent of knowing how stuff works because otherwise you think there's a magic plugin or like all this stuff that's just holding you back because
Hmm.
you think, well, if I don't have that and that thing's magic and if I could afford a Fairchild.
Yeah.
And it's not true, man. Everything is knowable.
Hmm.
And I like being able to throw out the bits of that stuff that I don't want. Like when I was mixing on the analog gear, you can't. It all comes in a package. So
Hmm.
you get the amazing EQ and you also get some noise and some distortion and lack of headroom.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, but in the box you don't have to do that. And I think once you understand how things work, and that's
Uh-huh.
just me, there are plenty of people who did not go to school who are way better at this than me. Just for the way my brain works,
Yeah.
I need to know how stuff works.
You're an engineer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
i
yeah.
i am. I mean, because then if something isn't working the way you want it to,
Hmm.
you can figure out why.
Yeah.
And for me that's huge. I
Hmm.
don't trust myself to just feel my way through a mix.
Yeah. 100%. And it's like with plugins, it's a lot easier to change something than you would with hardware. Because if
Yeah.
like you want to remove noise, you know, you can do that on digital really easily.
Yeah,
It's
and
in the
talk
code.
about
It's
AI,
binary. Yeah.
isotope
100%.
spectral repair. I mean, that's insane.
Spectral repair is amazing. I mean, are you talking about RX?
Yeah,
I've, I've dove into a little bit, but I never really,
God, I
got
use it
got super
all the
into it.
time, man. Click bleed on an acoustic guitar track at the end of a
Yeah.
song that just ruins it.
Uh huh.
Just draw them all out. They're gone.
That's
Creaks on pedals on a piano, gone.
Man, that's crazy. I'm gonna need to pick your mind with about that one day, because I've
Yeah.
I've always envied people that are good at RX, like, because I feel like
RX,
it's.
it's actually really simple, man. Just throw some audio in there that has a problem
Hmm.
and look at the spectrogram. Don't look at the waveform at all. Turn the waveform off because
Hmm.
that will confuse you. And you'll literally see the sound. Just draw a little box around it, and there's a spectral repair thing. Hit
Hmm.
process, done.
Oh,
Like
that's
that's
it.
it.
Oh,
That's it.
and then it'll show like in red or something, right? Like the
Well,
parts that
not
are
even
louder.
necessarily red. I mean, the colors change based on how loud it is,
Uh-huh.
but like it sort of gives you this fuzzy graph that looks like the sound.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of, like, if you're looking for click, you'll see this spike. And so it's
Oh.
frequency bottom to top, and
Uh-huh.
then time that way, and
Yeah.
then how sort of filled in it is, and the color tells you how loud that thing is.
Hmm.
But yeah, you'll just see a spike, and once you've
Just
done
go
it
in and circle it.
5 or 6 times, you absolutely will just start to recognize things.
Oh, I see.
And the noise reduction stuff, where like if you got a hum on something, you throw it in there, you just give it a little bit of the hum, and there's one called spectral denoise,
Hmm.
and it says learn. So you play it, the hum, click learn. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, cool. And now you just get rid of it
That
and
spectral
just work.
denoise, I do use that. I really love
Yeah.
that. That
Well,
and
yeah, just check out the spectral repair. It's
for sure.
awesome.
Yeah. If you're at the U at that time, were you bumping to Live Crew? Were you getting down with that?
A little,
A
a
little bit.
little. Yeah. Yeah, that was going on.
That's awesome. Do you mix at in mono at any stage? One of our
Nope.
community members wants to know. No.
No.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan
A lot
either.
of people do,
Yeah.
and it does something for them, but it doesn't help me. So no, I don't do it.
I forget to do it. Like there's times where I'm like, oh, I want to do it. I want to try it. I want to practice it, and then I never get around to it because I get too into the mix. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think even listening on a phone now, there is a stereo experience, and I'm not sure. Again, I don't quite understand why you would do it, so that
Hmm.
means that I don't get why people do it, and I'm sure there's a really good reason.
Mm.
But
Oh, referencing on the phone?
no, 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 mixing in mono.
Oh,
Like
fixing mono.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. Do you use reference mixes at all?
No, they
No.
confuse the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do, and I wish I could in a way, but like let's say you've got a mix that you think the low end is amazing, like some of Jimmy's stuff on the early Missy Elliott records
Uh
or
huh.
something. And then you're mixing a track and you're like, man, where's my low end at? But the level between the bass and the vocal on your mix is going to be
Completely
nothing
different.
like the level on the reference mix. And then that just confuses me. I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, I don't even know about the low end, but man, my vocal's way too loud.
Right.
And like, well, no, so I can't, it doesn't work for me. And it's a shame. I wish it would.
And I've had this problem where like I'll balance the song like my reference, but it sounds nothing like it. And I'm like, okay, what's the point of that? The makeup of the song is completely different. You're
Yeah.
rarely gonna get a song where it's like the same. Uh,
But there are people where it works really well. There's a friend of mine who he warms up. He's
mm.
got a playlist of a bunch of songs that he thinks feels good, and every day before he
Oh,
starts mixing, he listens to like three or four of them. And he thinks, and for him, it like puts him in this
state.
place, this
Uh-huh.
sonic world where now he can work. But for me, as
Yeah,
soon as I hit play on the song I'm working on, like now I'm in that world, and
yeah,
it doesn't stick around.
yeah. Me too. I don't listen to a lot of music on days that I do mix.
Yeah,
Unless I'm having like a lot of trouble, or if like I'm super stressed out and I can't figure something out, I might I might turn that off, shut off Pro Tools for a while and then listen to some of the songs that I really like. But it's more of a stress level thing. It's more of a mental
yeah,
thing than there's someone
yeah.
that keeps trying to get in. I don't know. I don't know how they have our link. His name is Oliver Johnson.
Oh, what to like come into the chat?
Yeah, you didn't invite nobody, right? Okay,
No,
I didn't send this to
no,
anyone either. So, let's see. Um,
that's funny.
yeah, that's hilarious. What the hell? Can I just like deny? Okay.
You can see the URL on the stream, but that
Oh,
doesn't let
that's
you. That
maybe
lets
that's
you
what it is.
in.
Yeah,
That
maybe
lets
maybe
you in as
someone's
a guest.
trying to say hi. Look at it. What? Should we just let him in? Eh.
I don't know. I mean, it's up to you, man.
Nah, let's not.
It might be someone who hates me though.
It might be the guy that left that comment.
Yeah, it could be. Please stop making
Oh.
music.
Let me see the question. Let's just like maybe two more.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm good with that. Um, how do you like to add high end to a vocal? EQ or saturation? Are you a big saturation guy?
Not so much on vocals.
Uh-huh.
I've got a parallel chain that's basically 1176 all buttons in thing, but that's like aggression and spit, but it's got some saturation in it.
Mm-hmm.
I also every once in a while used to do it all the time, and I barely ever do it now using Aphex on a
Mm-hmm.
send,
The
Aphex
oral
Oral
exciter.
Exciter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But a high shelf, like the high shelf on the Omni channel, there are two of them. One of them is a smooth one, and one of them's got a little bit of like craziness at the corner frequency. And that is just a really nice, easy to hear high shelf.
Mm.
So that's what I use most of the time.
Okay, that works. I'm trying to make. Okay,
Dude,
how do I make this
you want to let
private?
him in? I
He's desperate. How
Oh,
do
well,
you
why doesn't he go? Just tell him to put something in the chat to say what's, you know.
do you know do you guys know how to make it private? They said make. I thought the meeting is private.
That's really funny.
Yeah, that's killing me. Oh my goodness. Oliver Johnson, please quit it. All right, let's let him in. Let's see what he's about. Hello. I blocked him and then abuse, unwanted sexual content.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
funny.
Do you know that dude?
No, I have no.
Either of them?
No. The guy on the bottom. Unwanted sexual content report.
Wow.
Yo, that was so funny. That was
Super
hilarious.
insistent,
That was hey, that's a good prank.
I guess.
That's a he succeeded. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that's not good.
Oh man. All right, let's see if there's any more questions. Um let's see. Do you check your mixes in any other monitoring systems or just your studio
Uh,
car test?
when I'm working, I got my speakers,
Mhm.
I got some PMCs, I got headphones, I got Audizies, which I really like.
Mhm.
And then I actually check on I got a Mac Studio monitor, and I use that a lot.
Oh,
Like
nice.
there will be a day where I'm on an album where everything is through there, and I'm
Oh,
working on the
really?
mixes. When I'm
Through
like
the
halfway
output of the
done.
monitor?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, because like if you put on Apple Music or whatever you use to listen to music,
Mhm.
and you put it through those speakers, like the stuff that sounds good sounds really, really good.
Mhm.
So I just figured one day, well, it better sound good on there too.
Yeah.
And it's been really helpful.
Mm. Cuz it gives you it gives you an honest flat response and it kind of emulates what people are going to listen to on how people are going to listen to on their laptops and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It kind of sounds
So
like a
I don't know.
phone.
It's just for me, it's just hearing it somewhere else. So I get out of my own head about, the snare.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Which PMCs do you use?
I got the big ass MB3 XBDs,
Oh,
like the huge ones, and
yeah.
they're like 2 feet away from me. I'm looking at them right now. Like it's like the biggest pair of headphones ever. But basically, I used to have all that analog gear, and it's a long story, but I ended up selling it.
Mhm.
And I was just about to set up my Atmos setup, and I'd been lusting after these speakers forever. And
Mhm.
so I thought, well, that's my front wall, is those speakers.
Do you
And it's
listen do you mix quiet or do you get loud?
most of the time, yeah. I mean, I check stuff loud every once in a while,
Mhm.
but most of the time, and I'm trying to not change the level that much. I used to always do that, mix really quiet, really loud, and
Mhm.
change it up all the time. And I try not to, because what I would do is if something wasn't banging, like whatever the word is, like it wasn't doing the thing, I would crank the speakers up and then kid myself it was doing the thing.
Right, right.
So now I leave the speakers at a pretty conservative level,
Mhm.
and it really makes me work,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah. I have a thing. I'm kind of OCD about it. Like my car, if I get in my car, I'll listen to it on one volume. Like and then in the studio, I have a position on my
Yeah.
monitor
Well,
controller.
like that's what works for
Mhm.
me where reference tracks don't.
Mm.
Like
Right.
I know it should be great
At this
at that
level.
level. And so, and like the switching between the things, usually it's like I'll spend a whole day on the monitor speakers.
Mhm.
I'll spend a whole day on the headphones. I'll
Mhm.
spend a whole day on the speakers. I'm not going
Oh,
back and forth and back and forth.
yeah.
Like
Cuz
I can
then
just
you can
live in
psych
that world.
yourself out, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's me.
And you focus on such different things.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just find it like, okay, I'm gonna live in that world, and maybe I'm gonna make some mistakes, but this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. I love that. Yeah, I think we got what we need. That was a great conversation. I mean, it,
Awesome,
it
man.
seemed like we were just chopping it up. Um, I appreciate you for making the time. I know it's getting late out there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
close to my bedtime because I'm old.
But it's been a pleasure, man, and I know
Yeah, it's
the
been great.
I
Really,
know the
really good. And
community
I
really
like
appreciates.
the live chat thing. I'm not sure about the porn thing, but whatever. Oliver Johnson,
Hey,
man. We
man,
should have known. It's in the fucking
Oliver
name.
Johnson. We let Oliver Johnson, but
Mr.
yeah, broke under
Johnson.
peer pressure. I mean, I broke, bro.
Well, I'm the one who said maybe you should let him in. And I did backtrack and say no, but
No, I think I was
yeah,
going. I had that in my mind to let him in and just be like, "Hey, this guy really wants to talk to."
yeah, that neither of those dudes wanted to talk to me.
Yeah.
But you know what? All the people who are watching, they're not going to remember a single word I said, but they're going to remember Oliver
They're
Johnson.
gonna remember Oliver Johnson for sure.
Yeah.
That's gonna get me
You got to write
banned.
a song. You know what you got to do
What I
on
gotta
your
do
next album? Just special thanks to
to
Oliver Johnson.
Oliver Johnson. Hold on, let me make a note. Special
You
thanks.
got to get him on your next record.
And then who the people that have seen the video will get it. It'll be like a Easter egg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Prayers to
Exactly.
Oliver Johnson. Well, all right, Andrew. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. I'm
Absolutely.
probably
Thanks for
gonna
having me.
do like some feedback. We have this thing. We have a Discord channel. I have the guys submit mixes and beats and songs for feedback, and then we just go and listen to them and
Cool.
marvel at how good everyone is now. It's it's
Yeah.
it's crazy because I started this stream December of 23, and then in the 1 year people have gotten so good at mixing
Dude,
to the
I
point where I'm like, why am I doing this again?
exactly. I do the Mix with the Masters seminars.
Uh-huh.
And so I'll get in a room with 20 people and we're there for a week. And I spend the first couple of days going blah, blah, blah. And not like I'm so great, but whatever. You feel like, hey, they're coming here to see me. And
Uh-huh.
it's a real ego boost and it's awesome. And then you start listening to their stuff and like, I have nothing to teach you. Nothing.
Same here. Same here.
And I'm
Sometimes
asking them what they did all the time.
us too. We're like, hey, what did you use on that master? What lufs is that? What is this? And sometimes we're just like the whole chat is like, I quit, I quit, I quit, I quit, and we're
Yeah.
just like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah,
Stream's over.
exactly.
Go to
Exactly.
history.
So this is why I'm not going to visit your Discord because it's just going to make me sad.
No, dude, the talent in the next gen is amazing, and
Yeah.
it gets me as soon as I get over my little my hurt ego, it makes me really happy
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that means we're making a difference, and like all these interviews and master classes and things like that is actually making an impact.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And it's people no longer thinking like I need this or this or this. They're
Hmm.
just doing good work.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, man. Well, I
All right.
appreciate you.
Thanks
That
very
was
much, David.
it's gonna
Thanks for
have a
having me
lot of
on.
cool clips. Minus the
Of
Oliver
Oliver
Johnson.
Johnson. And on that note, I'm going to go.
All right.
All
Take
right.
care,
See
man.
you,
Good
man.
night.